we've been covering in this series the differences between the traditional approach to problem solving and design thinking, and I want to continue with that. And the number 3 difference that you can pick, or that we can pick, differentiate the design thinking from traditional approach, is the role of the user. Okay, the role of the user. In a traditional approach, the expert and decision makers dominate the process. So, and in most cases, these happen to be the product developers, in organization, or the service developer. So they were seen as the experts and the decision makers. So they would make a decision, and the whole process was about them. But when you look at design thinking, the user, the person, the customers, or the community, or the end user of the product or the service, they are actively involved. They are actively involved in the process, and they shape the solution. And that is a major difference and divide between the traditional and design thinking. That in traditional, the expert and the decision makers, they dominate the process, while in design thinking, it is the user who dominate the process and are the focus of the process. Let's give an example, say in a banking sector. If a bank want to redesign the mobile app, okay, the traditional, it may be more of the management and their preferences. But in a design thinking approach, or using a design thinking approach, the bank will have to conduct user interview. They will engage the customers, their customers. They will want to discover the pain points. What are the pain points that they are experiencing, or the challenges they are experiencing. They will then co-design the features of the app with the customers. For instance, they may introduce the live voice commands. They may also want to integrate visuals or features for visually impaired users. So again, that clearly shows you the difference between the traditional and the design thinking approach. The next, or probably number 4 difference between these two, is this when it comes to testing of the solution. Now, in a traditional setting, remember we said is linear in our first episode on this, which means the organization or the person coming up with the solution, they will implement the solution full scale and then evaluate the success thereafter. In a design thinking setting or approach, you create prototypes. And then you test these prototypes and make changes in an iterative way. Now, those that are probably in product development know what this means. It is costly to implement a solution full scale and then make changes later on. It is better, cheaper, and faster to implement a prototype and then iterate incorporating the changes or the feedback from the users. It is cheaper and better in terms of the result and the speed at which you can do that. For instance, let's in an example, let's think of a restaurant that wants to or a restaurant that is coming up. Now, in a traditional setting, they may launch a new menu nationwide without testing, and then they gauge the customer reaction. But you can tell that is very costly. It can be very costly. But in a design thinking setting, such a restaurant would introduce few dishes or a few very limited menu, and probably within one location, and then gather feedback and then refine the menu before rolling out in other areas. That is the design thinking approach. You can already see the advantage of design thinking in as far as the differences is concerned.